The quantum laboratory deep beneath the Rocky Mountains hummed with an energy that made the air itself feel alive. Dr. Sarah Chen stood before the massive observation window, her dark eyes fixed on the experimental chamber, where decades of human ingenuity had finally yielded something unprecedented, true invisibility. The prototype vessel, no larger than a standard shuttle, seemed to flicker like heat waves rising from desert sand before vanishing completely. Not just from visible sight, but from every form of detection humanity had ever developed. No radar signature, no heat emission, no electromagnetic presence. Nothing. Time mark. 36 hours of sustained quantum displacement. Sarah spoke into her recorder, trying to keep the pride from her voice. Project Nightshade has achieved full-spectrum invisibility. Behind her, General Marcus Torres cleared his throat. Dr. Chen, we need to accelerate the timeline. Our deep space arrays picked up something concerning. Sarah turned, noting the unusual tension in the general's typically stoic demeanor. The holographic display he activated showed what appeared to be a massive fleet of ships emerging from the outer edges of the solar system. Their design was clearly not human. Elegant, almost organic shapes that seemed to flow rather than be constructed. First contact, Sarah whispered, her heart racing. They're actually here. Yes, and they're not alone. We've detected similar fleets approaching every major human colony and outpost. This isn't an exploratory mission, Doctor. This is a coordinated operation. The implications hit Sarah like a physical blow. Humanity had only recently established its first extrasolar colonies, barely taking its first steps into the galaxy. Now, and clearly advanced alien civilization had arrived with overwhelming force. Have they made any attempts at communication? Sarah asked, already knowing the answer would complicate everything. They have. They call themselves the Hegemony Alliance, the collective of species that claim to welcome new civilizations into their fold. Torres's expression darkened, but our xenolinguists and behavioral analysts have detected concerning patterns in their messaging. Their version of welcome seems to involve complete cultural and technological integration. Those who resist typically disappear from galactic records. Sarah's mind raced through the implications. Project Nightshade had been developed as a defensive technology, a way to protect human ships and colonies from potential threats. Now it might be the only thing standing between humanity and cultural extinction. How long until they reach Earth? At their current velocity, 3 weeks. They're taking their time, making sure we see them coming. It's a show of force disguised as diplomatic courtesy. Sarah turned back to the observation window, where the prototype vessel had reappeared, its surface rippling with quantum distortions. Then we have 3 weeks to prepare our response. General, I need every available resource and engineer. What we've achieved here with one vessel, we need to replicate on a much larger scale. You'll have it. The Security Council has already approved Operation Ghostlight. Every major shipyard is being converted for classified production. Torres paused, studying the prototype. Can you do it, Doctor? Can you make our entire defense fleet invisible? Sarah thought of the thousands of calculations, the countless failed attempts, and the breakthrough that had finally made Nightshade possible. Yes, but we're going to do more than that. We're going to show them something they've never seen before. A civilization that refuses to be absorbed. Over the next 3 weeks, humanity's response took shape in hidden shipyards across the solar system. The Hegemony's massive fleet drew closer, their messages growing more frequent and insistent. They spoke of peace, of technological gifts, of cultural exchange, but always with an underlying current of inevitability. What they couldn't see was the network of quantum-shifted vessels taking position throughout the solar system. Ships that could move without being detected, strike without being anticipated, and defend without revealing their presence. The entire human defense fleet had become ghosts. The day the Hegemony's diplomatic vessel entered Earth orbit, Sarah stood in the control center of humanity's first quantum-shifted battlecruiser, the Shadowfall. Through the view screen, she watched the alien ship take position, its elegant form dwarfing the conventional satellites and stations in orbit. They're broadcasting their message to all Earth frequencies, the communications officer reported. Let them speak, Sarah said, knowing that humanity's response was already prepared. Let them think we're as vulnerable as every other species they've welcomed into their fold. The alien transmission began, filling the command center with a voice that somehow managed to be both melodious and imperious. People of Earth, we come offering membership in the greatest civilization the galaxy has known. Your isolation ends today. Your integration into the Hegemony Alliance begins now. Sarah allowed herself a small smile as she activated the quantum shift drive. Around the Earth, dozens of human ships did the same, becoming invisible sentinels ready to defend their home. The Hegemony was about to learn that humanity had its own definition of civilization, one that didn't involve surrender. Integration, she murmured, is not an option we accept. The Hegemony's diplomatic vessel hung in Earth's orbit like a gleaming sword of Damocles, its crystalline surface refracting sunlight in patterns that seemed almost hypnotic. In the quantum-shifted shadowfall, Dr. Sarah Chen watched as 3 more Hegemony ships emerged from hyperspace, their arrival carefully choreographed to appear non-threatening while demonstrating overwhelming technological superiority. They're transmitting again, Lieutenant Rivera reported from his communication station. Same frequency, but different voice pattern. The new voice filled the bridge, smooth as silk but cold as space itself. Your silence is concerning. We represent 37 species, all of whom have embraced the prosperity and protection of the Hegemony Alliance. Surely you understand the futility of isolation. Sarah exchanged glances with General Torres, who nodded grimly. It was time. Open a channel, Sarah commanded. Let's show them why silence can be powerful. The Shadowfall's quantum drive hummed at a frequency just below human hearing as Sarah stepped forward. This is Dr. Sarah Chen of Earth. We've received your messages of welcome and have a response prepared. Excellent, the Hegemony voice replied, satisfaction evident in its tone. Our integration protocols are quite efficient. Your transition into the Alliance can begin immediately. That won't be necessary, Sarah replied calmly. Computer, initiate Ghost Protocol Alpha. Across the solar system, humanity's hidden fleet sprang into action. 20 quantum-shifted vessels simultaneously materialized around the Hegemony ships, appearing from seemingly empty space. Each human ship was positioned with surgical precision, their weapon systems powered but not targeting, a display of capability rather than aggression. The Hegemony transmission cut off abruptly, replaced by bursts of frantic internal communications that the Shadowfall's enhanced systems easily intercepted. Impossible. Detection systems compromised. Where did they come from? No energy signatures, no approach vectors. Sarah allowed herself a small smile before reactivating the channel. As you can see, we've developed our own methods of protection. Your scans will tell you that our ships have no detectable power signatures, no visible propulsion systems, and no conventional weapons arrays. What they can't tell you is how many more vessels we have, or where they might be. The silence that followed was profound. When the Hegemony finally responded, their voice had lost its smoothness. This is unprecedented. No emerging civilization has ever hidden their entire defense fleet, developed technology that surpasses your detection capabilities. Sarah finished for them. Perhaps that's because no one else refused to be integrated. The Shadowfall's sensors detected power spikes in the Hegemony vessels, not weapons, but scanning systems pushing to their limits. Sarah knew what they would find. Nothing. The quantum shift technology didn't just hide ships. It removed them from conventional reality itself. You must understand, the Hegemony voice returned, now with an edge of desperation. The Alliance requires standardization. Your technology, your methods, they're disruptive, dangerous. No, General Torres stepped forward, his voice carrying the weight of humanity's resolve. What's dangerous is assuming every civilization, will bow to intimidation. Humanity has thrived not through standardization, but through innovation and adaptation. As if to emphasize his point, the human ships began to shift positions, each movement precise and coordinated. Where the hegemony's arrival had been choreographed to intimidate, this dance was designed to unsettle. Ships appeared and disappeared at random, their positions impossible to predict or track. You have one standard solar day to withdraw your forces from all human-controlled space, Sarah announced. After that, we will consider any hegemony presence near our worlds as an act of aggression. You would threaten the Alliance. The hegemony's voice had risen an octave. Our fleet outnumbers yours hundreds to one. Numbers mean nothing when you can't detect your target, Sarah responded. And this isn't a threat. It's a demonstration. You assumed Earth was another primitive world to be absorbed. Instead, you've discovered something unique. A species that not only refuses to be integrated, but has the means to enforce that refusal. The quantum-shifted fleet performed one final maneuver, each ship briefly materializing in a perfect sphere around the hegemony vessels before vanishing again. The message was clear. At any moment, humanity could strike from any direction, without warning and without detection. One day, Sarah repeated, we'll know if you make the wise choice. As the transmission ended, Sarah turned to General Torres. They won't retreat immediately. Their pride won't allow it. But they'll call for reinforcements first. Torres nodded, which means we'll have an even bigger audience for what comes next. The rest of the fleet is ready. Position and quantum shifted, Sarah confirmed. The hegemony is about to learn that humanity doesn't just refuse to be integrated. We'd redefine the rules of engagement. Above Earth, the hegemony ships remained motionless, their crystalline surfaces no longer seeming quite so impressive. They had come expecting to find another civilization to absorb into their collective. Instead, they had found humanity. And silence had never been so deafening. The hegemony's response came not with a retreat, but with an armada. Thousands of ships dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system, their formations spreading out like a web of crystalline threads designed to ensnare any resistance. From the bridge of the Shadowfall, Sarah watched the tactical display with grim satisfaction. They brought exactly what we expected, she noted to Admiral James Rivera, who had taken command of humanity's quantum fleet. Their entire Third Expeditionary Force. Rivera, a veteran of Earth's pre-unification wars, studied the hegemony formations with experienced eyes. They're using a containment pattern alpha, standard procedure for dealing with problematic civilizations. Normally, it's overwhelming. Normally, they can see their opponents, Sarah replied, making final adjustments to the quantum field generators. Ghost Protocol Phase 2 is ready, Admiral. Rivera nodded, his dark features set with determination. All ships, execute Ghost Protocol Phase 2. Operation Phantasm begins now. Across the solar system, humanity's hidden fleet sprang into action, but unlike their previous demonstration, this was no mere show of force. The quantum-shifted ships moved with precise coordination, each vessel following a carefully choreographed plan that had been months in preparation. The hegemony armada pushed forward, their sensors sweeping space for any sign of human resistance. They found nothing, exactly as planned. Their command ship is broadcasting, Lieutenant Chen reported. Playing on all frequencies, primitive species of Earth, the hegemony commander's voice boomed, artificial translation unable to hide their contempt. Your parlor tricks and technological flukes end today. The Alliance does not tolerate deviation. You will be integrated, or you will be eliminated. Rivera allowed himself a small smile. Let's show them what real deviation looks like. Execute Pattern Wraith. In perfect synchronization, 30 quantum-shifted human vessels materialized inside the hegemony formation. Not on its edges, not at its weak points, but deep within its supposedly impenetrable defensive screen. Before the alien ships could react, the human vessels released their payload. thousands of tiny quantum-shifted devices that attached themselves to the hegemony ship's hulls. Pattern wraith complete, Sarah reported, monitoring the quantum field readings. All devices are in position and synchronized. The hegemony commander's voice returned, now tinged with uncertainty. Your suicidal gesture changes nothing. Our shields were never designed to stop what they couldn't detect. Sarah interrupted, activating the quantum devices. Across the hegemony fleet, ships began to lose power as the devices created localized quantum fields that disrupted their energy distribution systems. This is impossible, the hegemony commander sputtered. Our technology is superior. We are the Alliance. Superior. Rivera's voice was calm but carried an edge of steel. You've spent so long absorbing other species' technologies that you've forgotten how to innovate. You see our quantum shift technology and think it's just another cloaking device. You're wrong. As if to emphasize his point, more human ships appeared, moving through the hegemony formation as if their ships weren't even there. In a way, they weren't. The quantum shift technology allowed humanity's vessels to exist partially out of phase with normal spacetime, making conventional barriers meaningless. Your shields, your armor, your weapons, they all operate within normal spacetime, Sarah explained, her voice carrying across the command channel. We've learned to step halfway out of reality itself. You can't stop what you can't touch, and you can't fight what you can't see. The hegemony fleet's formations began to break as more ships lost power. Their commanders, trained to fight conventional battles with overwhelming force, found themselves facing an enemy that ignored the basic rules of warfare. This is your final warning, Rivera announced. Withdraw your forces from all human space. We've demonstrated our capability to disable your ships without destroying them. The next demonstration won't be so gentle. You would dare dictate terms to the Alliance. The hegemony commander's voice had lost its imperious tone, replaced by barely controlled panic. We have governed the galaxy for millennia. Then perhaps it's time for change, Sarah replied. You've built an empire by forcing everyone to be the same. Humanity believes in something different. Diversity, innovation, the right to choose our own path. As if to punctuate her words, the quantum devices activated their secondary protocols. One by one, hegemony ships began to shift out of formation, their control systems overridden by quantum field manipulations. The mighty armada that had arrived to subdue Earth was now being choreographed like a puppet show. We could destroy your ships, Rivera noted calmly. Instead, we're choosing to show you something new. Mercy. Power will be restored to your vessels once they pass the outer boundary of our solar system. Consider this a lesson in humility. The silence that followed was broken only by the sound of hegemony ships being slowly guided away from Earth, their crews helpless to resist the quantum fields controlling their vessels. The Alliance had come expecting to find another primitive civilization to absorb. Instead, they had encountered something unprecedented. A species that had not only survived their first contact, but had fundamentally changed the rules of engagement. As the last hegemony ship disappeared into the darkness of space, Sarah turned to Admiral Rivera. They'll be back, you know. The Alliance won't accept this humiliation. Rivera nodded, watching the tactical display clear of enemy signatures. Good, because Phase 3 isn't about defending Earth anymore. It's about showing the galaxy there's an alternative to the Alliance's forced integration. The quantum fleet resumed their invisible patrol, ready for whatever came next. Humanity had made its stand, and the echoes of their defiance would resonate throughout the galaxy. News of humanity's victory spread through the galaxy like a quantum wave, impossible to contain or control. The Hegemony Alliance, for the first time in its long history, faced a crisis of confidence. In the Grand Council chamber of their capital world, representatives of the 37-member species gathered in unprecedented emergency session. Dr. Sarah Chen watched the proceedings through a quantum-shifted probe, humanity's invisible eyes penetrating the heart of Alliance territory. Beside her on the Shadowfall's observation deck, Ambassador Elena Santos prepared for the next phase of their plan. "The Neveri delegation is speaking," Sarah noted, adjusting the probe's feed. "They're the first of the newer Alliance members to openly question hegemony leadership." The holographic display showed a tall, avian being addressing the council, its iridescent feathers rippling with emotion. "For centuries, we were told integration was the only path to survival. Yet these humans have shown us another way. They've proven that innovation, not assimilation, is the true path to advancement." The chamber erupted in chaos as more representatives stood, centuries of carefully maintained order crumbling in the face of this fundamental challenge to Alliance doctrine. The hegemony's core species, those who had founded the Alliance, struggled to maintain control. Perfect timing. Ambassador Santos smiled, her diplomatic experience showing in her composed demeanor. "Initiate Operation Lighthouse." Across Alliance space, quantum-shifted human vessels simultaneously activated specialized communication arrays. The message they broadcast was simple but powerful. Footage of Earth's colonies, showing different human cultures working together while maintaining their unique identities. Cities where ancient architecture stood alongside modern innovations, where traditions were preserved even as technology advanced. "We offer an alternative," Santos' voice carried across the quantum channels, translated into every Alliance language. "Not integration, but cooperation. Not uniformity, but harmony through diversity." In the council chamber, the effect was immediate. Species that had been forced to abandon their cultural identities saw a different path forward. The Neveri representative spread their wings in a gesture of defiance. "The humans have shown us that strength comes not from erasing differences, but from embracing them," they declared. "The Neveri withdraw from the Alliance. We choose freedom." Like dominoes falling, other representatives began to stand. The Theri, silicon-based beings who had been forced to modify their crystalline bodies to match Alliance standards. The Zhen, whose psychic abilities had been suppressed as disruptive to standardization. One by one, species that had been absorbed into the Alliance began to break free. Admiral Rivera entered the observation deck, his uniform bearing new insignia representing humanity's expanded role. The quantum probes are detecting massive fleet movements throughout Alliance space. The core species are trying to prevent withdrawals by force. "Then it's time for Phase 4, Sarah declared, activating the quantum field generators. "Show them what happens when they choose oppression over freedom." Throughout Alliance space, human ships emerged from quantum shift, positioning themselves between hegemony warships and withdrawing member worlds. Each vessel carried the same quantum disruptors that had humbled the Third Expeditionary Force, ready to prevent any aggressive action. "This is Ambassador Elena Santos of Earth." The broadcast went out on all frequencies. "To any species seeking independence from the Alliance, we offer protection and partnership. To the hegemony core worlds, your era of forced integration is over." The response was beyond anything they had anticipated. Not just military ships, but civilian vessels, research stations, and entire orbital habitats began declaring independence. The Alliance's carefully maintained facade of unity shattered, revealing the suppressed diversity that had always existed beneath. In the council chamber, the hegemony leadership faced their worst nightmare: the loss of control. Their careful system of technological suppression and cultural assimilation was breaking down as member species reclaimed their independence. "You destroy everything we built." The High Chancellor of the Alliance raged, their ceremonial robes quivering. "Millennia of peace through unity, ruined by your chaos." "No," Ambassador Santos replied calmly. "We're destroying the chains you built. Peace through suppression isn't peace at all. It's just oppression wearing a diplomatic smile." Sarah monitored the quantum feeds as more worlds declared independence. The hegemony's control was always more fragile than they knew. All these species needed was proof that there was another way. "And now they have it," Rivera nodded. "But the core worlds won't accept this easily. They'll fight to maintain control." "Let them try," Sarah's voice was firm. "Humanity didn't develop the quantum shift technology just to defend Earth. We developed it to change the galaxy. As if to emphasize her words, another quantum-shifted fleet emerged in Alliance space, this one carrying diplomats, scientists, and cultural experts from Earth. They were ready to help newly independent worlds rediscover their heritage while developing their own paths forward. The age of integration was ending. In its place, a new era was beginning, one where diversity was celebrated, not suppressed, and where each species could choose its own destiny. The price of silence had been paid, and the echo of humanity's defiance had become a chorus of freedom. The hegemony core worlds had retreated to their ancient stronghold, a massive artificial construct known as the Nexus. For millennia, it had served as the heart of their power, a symbol of their technological supremacy. Now it was their last bastion, surrounded by the combined fleets of Earth and the newly liberated worlds. Dr. Sarah Chen stood on the Shadow Falls Bridge, watching the quantum probe feeds as the hegemony leadership prepared for their final stand. The massive structure before them pulsed with energy readings that defied conventional physics. "They're activating something," she reported to Admiral Rivera and Ambassador Santos. "The energy signature. It's like nothing we've seen before." "The Unity engine." A voice spoke from behind them. The bridge crew turned to see Nexar, a former high-ranking scientist from the hegemony who had defected to Earth. Their crystalline form shimmered with barely contained anxiety. "It's what they used to force the first civilizations into integration, a weapon that can rewrite the very essence of matter itself." The Nexus's surface began to ripple, patches of reality distorting as the ancient weapon powered up. Sarah's quantum sensors screamed warnings as spacetime itself began to warp. "They would rather destroy everything than accept change," Ambassador Santos said softly. "Typical of those who worship uniformity. If they can't control it, they'll try to eliminate it." Admiral Rivera's voice carried across the combined fleet channels. "All ships, execute final protocol. Operation Harmony begins now." Across the battlefield, hundreds of quantum-shifted vessels, human and alien alike, activated their specialized drives. Each ship had been modified with Earth's technology, but in unique ways that reflected their species' particular strengths. The Neveri vessels phased through space like living quantum ghosts, while the crystalline ships of the Thari refracted quantum fields in impossible patterns. "You see," Sarah broadcast to the hegemony stronghold, "this is true strength, not forcing everyone to be the same, but finding ways to make our differences work together." The Unity engine's power reached its peak, reality screaming as it tried to impose its will on spacetime. But something was different this time. The quantum-shifted fleet's combined signatures created a new kind of field, one that turned the hegemony's own weapon against them. "Impossible." The High Chancellor's voice boomed across all frequencies. "Our technology is absolute. We are the pinnacle of civilization." "No," Sarah replied calmly, activating the final sequence. "You're just the longest-running example of stagnation. Real civilization doesn't end with one answer. It grows through endless questions." The combined fleet moved in perfect harmony, each ship's unique quantum signature contributing to a greater whole. Where the Unity engine tried to impose uniformity, their combined field created possibility. Where it sought to destroy difference, they enhanced it. At the heart of the Nexus, alarms blared as the Unity engine began to overload. Centuries of enforced stagnation had left the hegemony unable to adapt to new variables. Their weapon, designed to enforce sameness, couldn't handle the complexity of true diversity. "Last chance," Ambassador Santos broadcast. "Power down the engine. Join us in building something new, not an alliance built on force, but a coalition built on choice." For a moment, the universe seemed to hold its breath. Then, slowly, the Unity engine's power signature began to fade. On the Nexus's command channel, a new voice spoke, younger, less certain, but carrying hope instead of arrogance. "We," the voice hesitated, "we wish to discuss terms." Hours later, Sarah stood with Rivera and Santos in the Nexus's ancient council chamber. Representatives from dozens of species, both formerly integrated and newly spacefaring, gathered to sign the Galactic Coalition Charter. Its first articles enshrine not just the right to exist, but the right to be different. Humanity could have used the quantum shift technology to dominate, Nexer observed, watching the proceedings. Instead, you used it to free us. Because real strength isn't about domination, Sarah replied, watching as species that had been enemies for millennia began to talk as equals. It's about finding ways to work together without losing what makes us unique. The quantum shift drives that had started as a defense for Earth had become something more, a symbol of humanity's gift to the galaxy. Not a technology to enforce uniformity, but a tool to protect diversity. The price of silence had been high, but the reward was a galaxy where every voice could be heard. As the new coalition took its first steps, Sarah thought about the long journey that had brought them here. Human ingenuity had created the quantum shift technology, but it was human wisdom that had turned it from a weapon into a bridge. The age of enforced integration was over. In its place, a new era began, one where the silence of oppression was replaced by a symphony of diverse voices, each contributing to a greater whole without losing their individual songs. The price of peace wasn't silence after all. It was the courage to listen to every voice, and the wisdom to know that the greatest strength lies not in enforcing sameness, but in protecting the right to be different.